It was just after sunrise on August 4, 2025, when the capital of the United States woke to a scene that felt ripped from a dystopian film. The first thing was the sound, deep mechanical growls echoing down narrow streets. Then the sight, tan armored National Guard Humvees crawling past brick row houses, rumbling over cobblestone alleys, rolling through freshly painted bike lanes. On the sidewalks, people stopped mid-step, commuters clutching coffee cups, dog walkers frozen with leashes taut, tourists holding iced lattes in one hand and cameras in the other. Soldiers in full tactical gear stood like sentinels at key intersections, boots planted firmly, rifles slung tight against their chests. Just a week earlier, those same corners had been manned by unarmed community officers, waving families toward the Smithsonian and snapping photos for out-of-towners. Now the air felt heavier, charged with an unspoken truth. Washington, D.C. had slipped into a new reality overnight. This wasn't a riot. It wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't even a terror threat. No, city officials said the reason was something far less dramatic and far more controversial: a surge in youth crime. In July alone, carjackings had risen by 42%, nearly half involved suspects under 18. There'd been a string of daylight robberies in tourist zones, some caught on security cameras and splashed across local news. The mayor's office framed the situation as an urgent crisis, one that pushed residents to the edge of fear and demanded drastic action. At an early morning press conference, Mayor Muriel Bowser stood flanked by Police Chief Pamela Smith and D.C. National Guard Commander Major General Aaron Dean. Cameras flashed as she delivered her statement with clipped precision. But behind the polished speeches, another storyline was taking shape. In just 3 weeks, the D.C. City Council was set to vote on a youth justice reform bill, one that would limit detention periods for minors. The timing, some whispered, was no coincidence. It didn't take long for the Guard's presence to spread beyond D.C.'s streets and onto the world's screens. That very night, a TikTok clip hit the internet. It was grainy but, pretty powerful. It showed 3 guardsmen stopping a group of teenagers outside a 7-Eleven in northeast D.C. The soldiers frisked them, questioned them, and eventually let them walk away. No weapons, no stolen goods, no arrests. By morning, the video had 6 million views. The comments section was a war zone. They're soldiers, not cops. This is insane. My tax dollars for intimidation? No thanks. Good. Maybe now people will think twice before robbing someone. City Hall pushed back, saying the Guard's role was strictly supportive, helping with traffic stops, perimeters, and assisting police in high-risk situations. But in majority black neighborhoods, where young men were stopped far more often, the optics were hard to ignore. Just as the debate threatened to plateau, the Washington Post dropped a front-page story that detonated like a grenade in the city's political scene. On August 6th, leaked D.C. Council memos revealed the National Guard deployment had been in planning since early June, weeks before the July crime wave cited as the reason. The memos detailed federal-level coordination and discussed integrating Guard patrols into a long-term crime prevention strategy. The so-called emergency? Not so sudden after all. By August 7th, the city felt split down in visible fault lines. In neighborhoods like Shaw and Logan Circle, hit hardest by carjackings, residents expressed cautious relief. One resident summed it up saying, "If it takes soldiers to stop a kid from sticking a gun in my face at the gas station, fine by me." But across the river in Anacostia, the mood was starkly different. Years of slowly improving police community trust had been shattered overnight. Youth program leaders reported a drop in attendance. Teens avoided public spaces altogether, afraid of being stopped on their way to class or practice. Then came another twist. On August 8th, ProPublica revealed that one of the deployment's architects was a former Homeland Security official, now with a private security firm holding multi-million-dollar contracts in other cities. The same firm was pitching facial recognition and mass surveillance systems to municipalities nationwide. The tension didn't take long to boil over again. On August 9th, guardsmen assisted police in stopping a stolen SUV in Adams Morgan. The driver, a 16-year-old, surrendered peacefully, Officials hailed it as a textbook example of the Guard's value. But only hours later, another TikTok clip went viral. It showed a guardsman aiming his rifle at two unarmed teens on scooters after a heated argument near DuPont Circle. There were no shots fired, no arrests, but the image was seared into the public's mind. It's only a matter of time before something goes wrong. By mid-August, calls for oversight were deafening. Civil rights attorneys began drafting lawsuits alleging Fourth Amendment violations, warning that the line between military support and unconstitutional policing had blurred dangerously. Activists gathered in Freedom Plaza for demilitarized D.C. rallies, their signs reading, "Soldiers don't belong on our streets and safety without surveillance." Even within the federal government, unease was palpable. Pentagon officials, speaking quietly off the record, feared photos of American troops patrolling U.S. neighborhoods could be used by foreign governments to justify military crackdowns on dissent. It's not just about D.C., it's about the image of America we project, and once that changes, you can't take it back. Yet, despite mounting scrutiny, Mayor Bowser stood firm. The Guard will remain until key crime indicators drop. But when pressed for specifics, like which crimes, what percentage drop, and over what period, she sidestepped. For critics, that vagueness was the problem. Without clear benchmarks, temporary could quietly stretch into indefinite. In tourist-heavy zones like the National Mall, visitors admitted they felt safer, even comforted, by the sight of military uniforms. Hotels and restaurants welcomed the sense of order. Meanwhile, in working-class and historically over-policed neighborhoods, an entirely different reality played out. Parents warned their teenage sons to avoid certain streets. Youth sports leagues saw attendance plummet. Cafes and corner stores in those areas reported fewer customers lingering. It wasn't just about fear of crime anymore, it was fear of the uniform itself. The capital had become two cities at once, one breathing easier, the other holding its breath. If another spike in youth crime makes headlines, will the Guard be rolled in again without debate? Will the public eventually see it as routine? Or has the city quietly taken the first steps toward normalizing a permanent military footprint? Because once the public accepts soldiers as part of everyday policing, the boundaries between civil governance and military authority begin to erode, not with a bang, but with a slow, silent shift. The Guard's deployment may eventually fade into the rearview mirror, but the precedent it set is carved deep into the city's political memory. The next mayor, the next council, the next crisis, all will inherit the choice made this summer. So was it a bold move to protect citizens in a moment of danger? Or was it a calculated political maneuver dressed in the language of security? A shield or a show? A safeguard or the first step down a road we can't turn back from?